Welcome back. This channel exists because of your support. Subscribe, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's get into the story. Friday, January 10th, 11:47 p.m. She came through the front door smelling like hospital. That specific cocktail of antiseptic and exhaustion that I'd learned to recognize from across the room. 16 hours. Trauma unit. I'd already put Mateo to bed, read him 2 chapters of Percy Jackson, made her dinner, and opened a bottle of the Malbec she liked. I walked up behind her in the kitchen, put my hand on her waist, gently, the way I'd done 1,000 times. She grabbed my wrist and moved it off her body like it was something that didn't belong there. You're acting like a teenager, Roman. I'm not here to satisfy you. I stood there, hands still in the air where her waist used to be. She wasn't done. I just spent 16 hours keeping people alive. A man died in my hands today, 36 years old. His wife was screaming in the hallway. And you sit at a screen trading imaginary money, and you wonder why I'm not in the mood. She pulled a glass from the cabinet, poured the wine I'd opened for her. Grow up. She took the glass to the bedroom, closed the door. I heard the lock click. I stood in the kitchen for a long time. The dinner I'd made was on the counter, getting cold. Grilled sea bass, rice with saffron, a salad with the heirloom tomatoes from the place on Coral Way that she used to love. I covered everything with foil, put it in the fridge, walked to the balcony, stood there looking at Biscayne Bay, the lights on the water, the causeway glowing, Miami breathing in the dark. I wasn't angry. That's what surprised me. Something else. Something quieter. Like a door closing in a house you've already decided to leave. That was night 1. My name is Roman Salcedo, 42. I built a cryptocurrency investment platform called Arcline from nothing, a laptop, a garage in Hialeah, and 4 years of 18-hour days. We manage $4.02 million in client assets. Office in Brickell, 12 employees. Featured in Forbes Miami, TechCrunch, Bloomberg Crypto. Not famous. Not trying to be. Just a guy who bet on himself when nobody else would. Before Nadia, I was a different version of myself. I need you to understand that because it matters later. I was the guy at every Art Basel opening. The guy with the VIP table at LIV on a Saturday. The guy women gravitated toward, not because I chased, because I didn't. I had an energy. People said it. Confidence without arrogance. A smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. I'm not bragging. I'm describing the man Nadia fell in love with before she spent 5 years trying to dismantle him. Women were always there. At events, at dinners, in my DMs, at my office. It was my reality, and I was comfortable in it. Not because I used anyone, because I enjoyed being alive, being social, being magnetic. Then I met Nadia Volkov. Saturday, March 14th, 2020. Charity Gala at the Perez Art Museum. She was standing by the Koons sculpture in a black dress, holding a champagne flute, looking like she wanted to be anywhere else. An ER resident at Jackson Memorial who'd been dragged there by a colleague. I walked up to her. You look like you're calculating everyone's blood alcohol level. She laughed. First real laugh she'd had all night. She told me that later. I'm calculating exit routes. I know 3. Want the tour? We spent 2 hours walking through the sculpture garden while Miami glowed behind us. She told me about trauma surgery, the precision, the chaos, the God complex that keeps you cutting when the numbers say stop. I told her about crypto, the patterns nobody else could see, the architecture of money, the thrill of building something from nothing. She said, I love how alive you are. I chose her. Out of every woman at every party in every room I'd ever walked into, I chose this one. Because she saw me. Not my money, not the lifestyle, not the VIP tables. Me. I closed the chapter. No more tables at LIV. No more random dinners. No more being available to everyone. I became hers. Completely. Faithfully. Without reservation. For 2 years, it was the best decision I ever made. Mateo came in 2021. Born at Jackson Memorial, her hospital. She delivered in the same building where she saved lives. Poetic. Beautiful. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, a full head of dark hair, and a grip that wouldn't let go of my finger. For the first 2 years with Mateo, we were solid. She'd come home from a shift, and I'd have dinner ready, the baby bathed, the apartment quiet. She'd sit on the couch with Mateo on her chest, and I'd sit next to her, and we'd just breathe together. Some nights, she'd reach for my hand without looking. Just reach. and find it there. I don't know when she stopped reaching. Nobody ever does. Year 3. The promotion. Nadia made attending physician in the trauma unit. Youngest in the department. The hours doubled. The pressure tripled. The woman who came home wasn't the woman who left in the morning. Something burned off during those shifts. Empathy, warmth, softness. And what came back was a shell running on cortisol and moral superiority. She started measuring everything by life and death. I'd tell her about a new client, a fund that just onboarded $800K. She'd nod. That's nice. Same tone you'd use for someone showing you a picture of their lunch. I'd show her the Bloomberg piece about our client. She'd glance at it. I was on call. I'd tell her Mateo said his first full sentence. She'd smile, distantly. I wish I'd been there. Then nothing. No follow-up. No asking what the sentence was. She moved on before the moment could land. But here's what killed me. She had energy. Plenty of it. Just not for me. Peloton at 5 a.m. every morning, without fail. That required energy. Friday wine nights with her doctor friends. Laughing, talking, decompressing for 3 hours. That required energy. Instagram, scrolling the medical community feed, commenting, posting about trauma awareness. That required energy. Group chat with her residency friends. Notifications buzzing all evening. Her thumbs flying across the screen, smiling at jokes I'd never hear. But when I sat down next to her on the couch and asked how her day was, I'm exhausted, Roman. Not tonight. Not tonight for conversation. Not tonight for closeness. Not tonight for existing in the same room as me. The exhaustion was real, but it was selective. And selective exhaustion is just priority dressed up in scrubs. One night. A Thursday. I remember because it was the night before my biggest client meeting. I was on the couch reviewing the pitch deck for a $1.02 million fund. She was in the bedroom, door open, FaceTime with her residency friends. I could hear them laughing. For 40 minutes. Deep, real, generous laughter, the kind that uses your whole body. Stories about a new attending who mispronounced catheterization. Inside jokes about a patient who asked if his surgeon was single. She was alive in there. The woman I fell in love with. Funny, sharp, radiant. She was right there. 20 feet away. Behind a door I wasn't invited through. When the call ended, I walked in. Sounded like a good time. She was already setting her alarm. I'm beat. I closed the Whitfield account today. Biggest onboarding we've had in 2 years. It's $1.02 million, Nadia. I heard you. She turned off her lamp. Not tonight, Roman. She had 40 minutes of energy for friends who made her laugh about catheters. She had 0 minutes for a husband who just landed the deal of his career. I walked back to the couch, opened the pitch deck again, stared at the numbers until they blurred. Year 4. The jealousy. This is the part that still doesn't make sense to me. She didn't want me, but she couldn't stand anyone else wanting me either. It started with Giselle, my executive assistant. 28, Brazilian, efficient, professional. She'd been with Arcline for 2 years. Nothing between us. Not a look, not a joke, not a moment that crossed any line. Nadia came to the office once. Saw Giselle. Said nothing at the time. That night. Why does your assistant dress like that? Like what? Like she's going to a club. She was wearing a blazer and pants. With heels. She's a professional. In an office. Wearing professional clothes. You don't see how she looks at you? She looks at her laptop. That's what I pay her for. Nadia dropped it. But the seed was planted. Every time I mentioned Giselle, Giselle scheduled the meeting. Giselle sent the report. Nadia's jaw tightened. A woman she'd never spoken to became her enemy based on nothing but proximity to me. Then the event started. Art Basel. My industry was there. My clients were there. I needed to be there. Nadia came. I wore a fitted black shirt. 2 women I didn't know approached me at the bar. Small talk. Compliments. The usual. I introduced Nadia. She smiled. The women left. In the car. Do you enjoy that? Enjoy what? The attention. The women. The way they look at you. I was introducing you. My wife. You didn't have to smile at them. I was being polite, Nadia. You were being Roman. She said my name like a diagnosis. If you've ever had someone punish you for the person you were before them, for the life you lived before they existed in it, you know what this feels like. I closed that chapter. I chose her. And she spent every day making me pay for the chapters she never read. The control escalated. She demanded I share my location. For safety. I did. She checked it 17 times in one day. I know because my phone tracked the access. She went through my phone at night. I woke up once at 2 a.m. and saw her in the bathroom, screen glowing on her face, scrolling my messages with her back against the locked door. She told me to stop seeing Javi, my best friend since college. He's single. Single men are bad influences. Javi, who was Mateo's godfather, who'd been at our wedding, who'd lent me $40K to start our line. She canceled my plans. I'd arranged dinner with clients. She'd text an hour before. We need family time tonight. I'd come home. She'd be on her phone the entire evening. Family time meant captivity with witnesses. She told me what to wear. Not that shirt. Why? It's too fitted. Too fitted. She wanted me invisible. Dimmed. The energy she fell in love with. She wanted it dead. Our client's 3rd anniversary. I'd planned a dinner, 12 employees, their partners, a private room at Cipriani downtown. This was my company's milestone. 3 years from a garage in Hialeah to $4.02 million under management. 2 hours before the dinner, her text. I need you home. Mateo has a cough. I called the babysitter. How's Mateo? He's fine. He's playing trucks. I texted Nadia. Babysitter says he's fine. No response. I went to the dinner. Gave a speech. Thanked my team. Came home at 10:30. Nadia was on the couch watching a documentary about brain surgery. Mateo was asleep. No cough. How was your little party? Little party. 3 years of everything I'd built, reduced to a word that meant it wasn't worth her attendance. It was good. You could have stayed home. It's just your employees. Just my employees. Just my career. Just my life's work. Just. Everything about me was just. Wednesday, September 11th. Dinner at Zuma with her doctor friends. For couples. The husbands were a cardiologist, an orthopedic surgeon, and a hospital administrator. Then me. Someone asked, Roman, what do you do? Nadia, before I could speak, crypto. It's like day trading, but nerdier. The table laughed. Politely. The cardiologist's wife tried to recover. Isn't that really complex, though? Nadia. It's mostly staring at charts. He works from home. She said, works from home, the same way she'd said it at her holiday party a year earlier. Like a euphemism for unemployment. Like my office in Brickell with 12 employees and $4.02 million in managed assets was a hobby I ran from my couch. I smiled. Drank my water. Ordered dessert. Filed it. I file everything. That's what architects do. We build with data. And by September, my files were full. The 90 nights. I started counting on January 10th. The night she called me a teenager. The night she told me my work was imaginary money. The night she locked the bedroom door. I didn't count out of bitterness. I counted because I'm a systems architect. I recognize patterns. And the pattern was clear. Night 1:30. Not tonight, to touch. Every attempt met with a flinch, a redirect, or silence. I stopped reaching by night 22. She didn't notice for 8 more days. Night 31:60. Not tonight, to conversation. She stopped asking about my day around night 35. I stopped offering by night 40. Dinner became a transaction. Plates on a counter, eaten at different times, cleaned by whoever got there first. Night 61:90. Not tonight, to existing together. She went to the bedroom. I stayed on the couch. The living room became mine. The bedroom became hers. The hallway between them became the longest distance in the house. Night 73 was the one I'll carry the longest. Mateo got sick. Fever, 102.4. I was up all night. Cold compresses, water, children's Tylenol, cartoons at 3 a.m. because he couldn't sleep. I held him on the couch, his forehead burning against my chest, and I whispered stories about pirates and treasure maps until he finally drifted off at 4:30. Nadia slept through it. Her door was closed. Morning. She came out, coffee in hand. How is he? Better. Fever broke at 4. You should have woken me. I'm a doctor. I looked at her. Long and steady. You weren't available. As usual. She blinked. Set her coffee down. Walked to Mateo's room. Came back 5 minutes later. Said nothing. That night. Night 73. I called Javi from the balcony. First time in weeks. She checked out, man. Not just from me, from everything. Mateo was burning up, and she slept through it. Javi was quiet for a while. Then, when's the last time she asked how you're doing? I couldn't answer. Not because I was emotional, because I genuinely couldn't remember. That's your answer, Roman. 2 nights later, Javi and I sat at a bar in Wynwood. Small place, dim lights, Two precedentes between us. He didn't push. That's what I always respected about him. He let silence work. Halfway through the second beer, he said, "You remember when you started our climb? You called me at midnight asking for that loan. You were scared, but you were alive. That's the Roman I know. This version sitting across from me. This isn't you, brother. I don't know who this version is." "Yeah, you do. This is the version who stayed too long because leaving felt like failing." I looked at my beer. He was right. Every system I'd ever built, I knew exactly when to run the diagnostics, when to patch, and when to decommission. I'd been patching a dead connection for 2 years. "I already called a lawyer," I said. Javi nodded, like he'd been waiting. "About time. Here's what I did with the nights she gave me. Night 47, dinner with Javi. First time I told anyone the full picture. He listened for 2 hours. Said one thing. You deserve to be chosen back. Night 55, Camila Reyes. Family law attorney. Office in Coral Gables above a Cuban bakery. I sat across from her desk and told her everything. She asked, "What do you want?" I said, "I want my son to know that a man doesn't stay where he's not wanted." She said, "Then let's make sure you leave correctly." Night 62, opened a new account. Transferred business assets, legally, documented, clean. Camila supervised every step. Night 71, found a place. 2-bedroom in Edgewater. View of the bay. Mateo's room has windows facing east. He'll see the sunrise. Night 78, signed the lease. Paid 3 months up front. Night 83, started moving things. 1 box at a time. While she was on shift. Books first, my favorites, the ones she never noticed on the shelf. Then clothes. Then the small things, my father's watch, my business awards, the framed photo of me and Mateo at the aquarium. Night 85, I packed the last of my books. Held the one Nadia gave me on our first anniversary, a first edition of Sapiens, inscribed on the inside cover. To the man who builds the future. I'm so proud to be yours. N. I ran my thumb across her handwriting. Whoever wrote that was someone else. Someone who saw me. I packed it in the box. Not because the memory didn't matter, because the woman who wrote it had left long before I did. Night 87. I stood in the bedroom doorway while she slept. Watched her breathing. Tried to feel something that would make me stay. Anger. Longing. Even sadness would have been enough. But there was nothing. Just a man looking at a room that used to be his, in a house that used to be a home, at a woman who used to want him there. Night 89. The shelf was half empty. The closet was thinning. My side of the bathroom had 1 toothbrush and a razor. Everything else was in Edgewater. She noticed nothing. 90 days. 90 nights. And she couldn't tell that the man sleeping on her couch was packing his entire life into boxes she never looked at. That's not inattention. That's erasure. Saturday, March 29th. Night 89. Mateo and I were at the kitchen table. He was drawing. Always drawing. Rockets and dinosaurs and buildings that looked like they came from a dream. I was pretending to read the paper. "Dad, where are your books?" I looked at the shelf. He'd noticed before she had. 7 years old. I moved some of them. "Where?" "To a new place." "Are we going to the new place?" "You'll come visit." "A lot." He was quiet for a minute. Then, "Dad, Mom tells Aunt Lena on the phone that you're just a crypto bro, but you built your company yourself. From a garage. That's not just, right?" I put my hand on his head. "No, buddy. That's not just. Why does she say it like that? Some people measure worth by what they understand. Your mom understands medicine. She doesn't understand what I build. I understand it. I know you do." He went back to drawing. I sat there with my throat tight, looking at a 7-year-old who saw me clearer than the woman I'd married. Sunday, March 30th. Night 90. I didn't come home. For the first time in 5 years, I slept somewhere else. Edgewater. My apartment. My bed. The bay through the window, moonlight on the water, silence that didn't feel like punishment. My phone rang 14 times. Her name, over and over. Texts. "Where are you?" "This isn't funny." "Roman, answer me." "I'm calling Javi." She called Javi. He didn't answer either. Monday morning, I drove to the house to get the last box. She was in the doorway. Scrubs on. Shift in an hour. Face tight. "Where were you last night?" "Out." "With who?" "Does it matter?" "You weren't in the mood to know for 90 nights. I'm your wife, Roman. You're my roommate who checks my phone and tells her friends I trade imaginary money. Wives don't do that, Nadia. Don't you dare walk out on this family. I'm not walking out on Mateo. I will never walk out on my son. I'm walking out on a woman who called me a teenager for wanting to hold her, who told me my career isn't real while I built a company that employs 12 people, who checked my location 17 times in one day but couldn't check on her own son when he had a fever of 102. She stepped back. One step. Like the words had weight. You counted. I'm an architect. I count everything. 90 nights, Nadia. 90 times you said no, to touch, to conversation, to being in the same room. I didn't argue once. I said fair every single time. Because a grown man doesn't beg. You told me to grow up. This is what grown up looks like. I picked up the box. Walked to my truck. Roman. I turned. I save people's lives. You save strangers. You couldn't save us. She tried everything after that. The cycle, just like the pattern says. Sweetness asterisk showed up at my office in Brickell. Dress instead of scrubs. Hair down. Brought lunch from the place on Calle Ocho I used to love. I miss you. I miss us. I was polite. Professional. The distance between us was 3 feet and 5 years. Anger asterisk, you planned this. You've been planning this. Moving boxes while I was at work. That's manipulation. I said, you checked my phone at 2 a.m. behind a locked bathroom door. Let's talk about manipulation. Tears asterisk real ones. Maybe. I don't want to lose you. I said, when did you start wanting to keep me? Because I have 90 nights that say you didn't. Weaponized Mateo asterisk, he needs his father at home. I said, he has his father. Every day? At my apartment, at the park, at his school. He needs a father who respects himself. That's what I'm showing him. The advocate asterisk she sent Dr. Rice, her colleague from the ER, a man I'd met twice at hospital fundraisers. He showed up at Arkline's office. Sat across from me in the conference room. Nadia is a good woman, Roman. She's under enormous pressure. The things she said, that's not her. I let him finish. Then, Dr. Rice, did she ask you to come here? He hesitated. She asked me to talk to you. Did she tell you she checked my phone at 2 a.m.? That she told her friends my career is a joke? That she slept through our son's 102-degree fever? He didn't know any of that. I could see it on his face. She'd sent him in with half the story and expected the full result. He left my office 15 minutes later. Never came back. The slip asterisk 1 week into her sweetness face. She thought she was winning. Then Javi told me what his coworker overheard. Nadia on the phone with her sister Lena. He's not breaking. I need to try harder. Maybe if I show up at the apartment again. He always comes back. He always does. He always comes back. 90 nights of not tonight. And she was certain, absolutely certain, that I'd wait forever. That I'd be there on night 91 and night 191 and night 1000, because that's what Roman does. He stays. He absorbs. He takes it. Not this time. I sat on my balcony that night and let those 4 words settle. He always comes back. She hadn't been panicking because she lost me. She'd been performing panic because the pattern was broken. 4 or 5 years, I'd been a system she controlled. Predictable, reliable, infinitely patient. Push him away, he orbits back. Reject him, he tries harder. Diminish him, he stays quieter. She'd engineered the perfect loop. Neglect followed by just enough attention to reset the clock. Night 91 was the first night she realized the loop was broken. That the man who always came back had finally found somewhere better to be. 3 months later. June. I'd settled into Edgewater. Mateo came every other week. His room was exactly how he wanted it. Rockets on the walls, a telescope by the window for watching the bay at night. Arkline was growing. New clients. New partnerships. I was sleeping through the night for the first time in years. Thursday evening. Brickell. I had dinner at Zuma with a woman named Elena. Met her at an industry conference in Wynwood. She ran a sustainable architecture fund. Smart, warm, present. She asked me about Arkline. She asked me about Mateo. She asked me how I was doing. She asked me how I was doing. That question, so simple, so ordinary, nearly broke me. Because I realized sitting across from her in that restaurant that nobody had asked me that in over a year. My own wife hadn't asked. My own wife was too busy saving strangers to notice her husband was drowning. Elena and I weren't anything yet. Just dinner. Just conversation. Just 2 people at a table, talking, without anyone checking a phone or measuring worth or pulling away. Friday, June 13th. 7:30 p.m. Nadia was driving through Brickell. Red light at the intersection by the river. She looked right. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Zumami. At a corner table. With a woman. Elena was laughing. I was leaning forward, showing her something on my phone, photos of a project site. From outside, through glass, it looked like everything Nadia had spent 5 years killing. Energy. Connection. Two people who wanted to be in the same room. The light turned green. The cars behind her honked. She didn't move. Mateo was in the back seat. Mom? The light's green. She drove. Silent. Hands tight on the wheel. In the rearview mirror, the restaurant shrank until it disappeared. That night, 11:47 p.m. Her text, who was she? I read it sitting on my balcony in Edgewater. The bay was still. Mateo was asleep in his room, book open on his chest, rocket nightlight casting shadows on the ceiling. I typed back. 2 hours later. 7 words. Someone who asked me how my day was. She never responded. I used to build systems that moved money across borders in milliseconds. Complex architecture. Millions of variables. Redundancy protocols, fail-safe triggers, encryption layers that protected everything flowing through them. But the most complex system I ever tried to maintain was a marriage where one person decided the other wasn't worth the bandwidth. You can optimize every connection, reinforce every node, build the most elegant architecture in the world, but if the other side goes offline, all you're running is an empty network. After 90 nights of not tonight, I stopped sending signals into the dark. I didn't shut down out of anger. I rerouted. Found bandwidth that wanted to carry what I was offering. Nadia saves lives. That's real. That matters. I never questioned her calling, and I never diminished her sacrifice. But somewhere between the operating room and our living room, she forgot that the man making dinner and reading bedtime stories and building a company from nothing, that man was also worth saving. She saved strangers every day. She just never thought to save us. Mateo drew me a picture last week. Our apartment. The bay. The telescope. 2 stick figures on the balcony, one tall, one short. Underneath, in 7-year-old handwriting, me and Dad looking at stars. No one else in the picture. Not because he forgot, because he drew what he sees. I put it on the fridge. Right next to the rocket. Right next to the dinosaur. Right next to every drawing he's ever made of a world where someone is paying attention. That's all any of us want, isn't it? Someone who pays attention. Someone who asks how your day was. Someone who doesn't say, not tonight, when you reach for them. Not because they owe you anything, but because they actually want you there. I found that. Not at a VIP table. Not at Art Basel. Not in a DM or a club or a penthouse. I found it in a quiet dinner at a restaurant with a woman who looked me in the eye and said, "Tell me about what you're building." And I did. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.